The Torah tells us, in the days after the flood, the whole earth had one language, not just one tongue. The Zohar teaches it was Lashon HaKodesh, the holy tongue, the same language the angels speak, the same language Hashem used to speak the world into existence. Genesis chapter 11. One people, one language, one ambition. And they almost pulled it off.
Before there were nations, there was one people, one language, one terrible ambition.
Now, before I tell you what they were building, I need to tell you why that matters for your life right now in 2026. Because the Tower of Babel isn't ancient history. It is operating in your city, your phone, your government right now. And nobody is talking about it. The plan, according to the Torah, was to build a tower that reached the heavens. Simple enough, right? Ambitious architecture, hubristic, sure. But in the Talmud, Sanhedrin, Daf 109a, goes deeper. Rabbi Yereya Bar Elazar teaches that the builders weren't unified in purpose. They split into three factions. The first faction said, "Let us ascend to heaven and live there." The second faction said, "Let us ascend to heaven and set up our idols there so we can worship them at the top." And the third faction said, "Let us ascend to heaven and make war against God." Three groups, three different agendas, but one tower. Sound familiar? One civilization, 100 different ideologies, but everybody is building the same thing. And none of them agree why.
Three factions, three agendas, one collapse. The tower fell not because God was threatened, but because the builders were already at war with each other.
Now, here's what most people miss about this story. God doesn't destroy the tower. He doesn't flood it. He doesn't burn it. He just changes one thing, the language. And that's it. Project over. Civilization fractures. Humanity scatters. All he had to do was touch the language. Language is the architect of power. The Zohar, the master text of Jewish mysticism, teaches something remarkable about Babel. The builders were using Lashon HaKodesh, the holy tongue, not just to communicate. They were using it to access divine energy. Hebrew, according to Kabbalah, isn't just a language. It's a technology, and the letters are spiritual vessels. Each letter has a numeric value, a structure, a function in the architecture of creation. The Zohar says, and I'm going to go slowly here, the reason Hashem had to act wasn't that he was threatened. It's because they were actually succeeding. Genesis 11:6. The verse says, "Now nothing will be withheld from them of all that they plan to do." Hashem himself acknowledged it. Unified humanity using the sacred language with one shared intention, even a corrupt one, was unstoppable.
The letters of the holy tongue were not merely words. They were weapons, and in the right hands, even corrupt ones, they could break the boundary between worlds.
So what does Hashem do? He doesn't destroy them. He scrambles the frequency. He fragments the one language into 7. Suddenly, the word means different things to different people. Suddenly, they can't coordinate. They can't unify. They can't build. The Tower of Babel is not a story about architecture. It's a story about what happens when language breaks down and who benefits. Remember that question, who benefits? Because we're about to apply it to your life today. Alternative facts.
I mean, if we're going to keep referring to our press secretary in those types of terms, I think that we're going to have to rethink our relationship here. I want to have a great open relationship with our press, but look what happened the day before, talking about falsehoods. We allowed the press to come into the Oval Office and witness President Trump signing executive orders. And of course, the Senate had just confirmed General Mattis and General Kelly to their 2 posts, and we allow the press in, and what happens almost immediately? A falsehood is told about removing the bust of Martin Luther King Jr. from the Oval Office. That's just flat out false. And
it was corrected immediately.
Why was it said? Chuck, why was it said in the first place? Because everybody is so presumptively negative.
To the head of that
no, that it's okay. No, excuse me. Oh, no.
That phrase, alternative facts, was not an accident. It was a declaration. A declaration that words no longer have fixed meaning, that reality is whatever the speaker says it is.
Мною принято решение о проведении специальной военной операции.
That's Babel, when Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine, a full-scale military invasion. He called it a special military operation. Russian law then made it illegal to call it a war. You can be imprisoned for naming the war. They didn't just invade a country. They rewrote the word for what they were doing while they were doing it.
When they can't build a tower to reach heaven, they build a tower of words, and they station it inside your mind.
This is not a left-right thing. This is not a political thing. I am not picking sides. I'm telling you, every side does it. Collateral damage instead of dead civilians. Enhanced interrogation instead of torture. Downsizing instead of mass layoffs. They scramble the language so you can't name what's happening to you. And if you can't name it, you can't fight it. Orwell understood this. In 1984, he invented a language called newspeak, specifically designed to shrink the vocabulary of thoughts. He wrote, "If you don't have the words to think a thought, you can't think it." The goal was not communication. The goal was cognitive containment. The Kabbalists understood this 3,000 years before Orwell. Language is not a container for reality. Language is reality. Change the word, you change the world.
If I search for something and you search for something, even right now at the very same time, we may get very different search results. Even if you're logged out, one engineer told me, there are 57 signals that Google looks at. Everything from what kind of computer you're on, to what kind of browser you're using, to where you're located, that it uses to personally tailor your query results. Think about it for a second. There is no standard Google anymore. And the funny thing about this is that it's hard to see. You can't see how different your search results are from anyone else's.
Here is the modern Tower of Babel. Two people can live in the same city, speak the same language, technically, and have absolutely no shared reality. The same news event. Two completely different set of facts. Two different emotional responses. Two different conclusions. They cannot reach each other. The algorithm, which is a Hebrew word, by the way, derived from the name of a Persian mathematician, has become the tool of the new Babel. It doesn't unite you, it sorts you. It puts you in a linguistic bubble where every word reinforces your existing reality. And over time, you literally cannot comprehend how another human being sees the world so differently. Relationships end, families fracture, nations split, not because of genuine ideological difference, but because the language, the shared framework for navigating reality, has been destroyed.
They are not your enemy. They are speaking a different language, and neither of you know it.
The builders of Babel weren't stupid. They were brilliant. They were organized. They were united. But the Midrash, Bereishit Rabbah, tells us that they cared more about the bricks than the people. If a man fell and died, they didn't stop to mourn. If a brick fell, they wept. Progress, efficiency, growth. The brick matters more than the builder. The metric matters more than the human. When a civilization starts grieving for its systems more than its people, Babel is already happening. Now here's where the Torah gives us something nobody else has. Why 70 languages? The Kabbalists tell us there are 70 root souls of humanity, 70 nations, 70 faces of the Torah. Hashem didn't fragment language randomly. He mapped it to the structure of the human soul. Each language is a pathway to a different face of Elohim. Different languages don't just express different cultures. They access different spiritual frequencies, which is why no single language can hold all of reality. Hebrew holds the highest, closest to the source, because it was the instrument of creation. But the other 69, they're not punishment, they're protection. The tower fell because humanity wanted to be one without being united. There's a difference. Being one means everything looks the same, talks the same, and thinks the same. That's not unity. That's erasure. Being unified means every distinct voice, every language, every soul harmonizes towards one purpose. That's not possible on earth yet, but the Torah tells us it will be. Zephaniah 3:9. For then I will restore the peoples a pure language, that they may call on the name of Hashem.
The day is coming when every tongue will speak one truth, not because the languages disappear, because they finally agree on what matters.
So what do you do with this? First, audit your language. What words are you using that someone else handed you? What do you call things, and why do you call them that? Who taught you those words? And what did they need you to believe? Second, learn to identify the scramble. When you watch a politician, a CEO, a media anchor, don't listen to what they're saying. Listen to what they're not saying, and watch how they use words to make a thing sound like its opposite. Enhanced interrogation. War is peace. Freedom is slavery. Ignorance is strength. Babel is running right now in real time. And most people never knew it because they were too busy arguing about the bricks. Third, and this is the one nobody talks about, speak with precision. The Torah teaches that the world was created by speech. Your world is also created with your speech. Every word you speak is an act of creation or destruction. Every vague word is a small act of Babel, fragmenting your own reality. The most dangerous weapon in history was never built of stone. It was built of words, and they're still constructing it in your mind.